Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pauline, and thank you very much for being here. So this forum is about the Anti-Fake News Act. Is it a necessary evil? Okay, just to provide a brief background to this topic. The Anti-Fake News Act provides measures to halt the dissemination of fake news which threatens the country. Many criticize the act as the lack of clear definition determining what is false, and it does undermine the expression of the people. But the proponents of the act support and say that there is a need for this act because fake news is being generated and disseminated at alarming rates, especially online. So the question now is that is there really a need for the Anti-Fake News Act in society? Should we accept it as a necessary evil, to mitigate the harms of fake news? And very glad to have three very distinguished speakers, Singh, Fidaus, and Robbie, to share with us, their thoughts on this topic. So just to provide a background, so in your opinion, how would you define what is fake news? There is news and there's fake news. So what's the difference? Anyone?
I thought she'd be a lawyer taking questions. Hi, thank you for spending your afternoon with us. So what is fake news? If you tell me fake news, the first thing I'm going to think of is Donald Trump and the campaign. So I think in very brief, if I can give a description to it, I'll just say two words, false information. I think news is just news. There's no such thing as fake news because everyone has always been playing politics with news for the longest time. Whenever you have a news that come out, an objective fact that comes out, there's always two sides of the story or three sides or even more of that. So having tried to call it fake itself is difficult because it's a matter of perspective, not just of information per se.
Just to add to that, fake news has been used to describe, say, government propaganda. It has been used to describe conspiracy theories. It has been used by politicians to describe news that they don't like. And so there seems to be varying usage of the word fake news. And so there has been suggestion that instead of using fake news, we should use the term misinformation or disinformation. So disinformation is where people deliberately spread or create false news, whereas misinformation could be a situation where someone shared news which they may or may not have the intention or may or may not know that such news is false. So that is a suggestion instead of using the term fake news.
Thanks, Dr. Pauline. See, this is the conceptual difficulty with fake news. Because you are trying to give meaning to a term which it's very difficult to give any sort of meaning to. You have the statutory definition of what fake news is, which includes any news, information, data, reports, which is or wholly or partly false, whether in the form of pictures, video, audio recordings, or in any other form capable of suggesting words or ideas. So it basically is everything. And I think the long and short of it is that anything that is false is fake news. So, but what is false? So you start to descend into this very philosophical argument of what is true, what is false, because there are on one end of the spectrum things which you can definitely say is true, like gravity. Then on the other hand, on the other end of the spectrum, you have more difficult issues such as religion, where some say it's true, some say it's false. So who then decides? Who is the arbiter? So when it comes to the definition of fake news, again, for me, it's a pointless exercise, trying to define what fake news is.
Yeah, that brings me to the question, if it's a statutory definition, right, of what is fake news, then who would actually determine it? Would it be the judges if there is a case that comes up? Because I don't think there is many cases right under this act. So who would be the one to define? In Singapore, I believe that the ministers have the right to define, but here, since there's no case, and hypothetically, if a case comes up, then will it be the judges? Are they capable of defining it?
Well, Ultimately, it would be for the judges to decide, but Parliament has to legislate what they think is the definition of fake news. And then the judge would have to interpret based on those words what, on a case-by-case basis, whether it constitutes fake news, whether it constitutes an offense under the Anti-Fake News Act.
But in the Anti-Fake News Act, right, it just states that it is false. There is no, it's still up there for the judge to actually interpret it, right? Because it doesn't define exactly, like you say, it's all encompassing. So how? Is there a way out for this, or we have to do a test case?
Okay, so that is currently what is highlighted by opponents of Anti-Fake News Act as the main problem of the act. How do you enforce Anti-Fake News Act? Yeah, when there's not even a definition of what constitutes false news. Yeah, so fake news under Section 2 is described as news that are false. Yeah, but what is false news? We don't know. And so who are we turning into to be quote unquote the truth police? We don't know. And are we ready to say to place it either on the judiciary or on the legislature or on the executive to be the truth police? I think that's really the main question. I don't have the answer to that. My opinion to that is the fact that we can't have one body to be the truth police. If there isn't one, you can't have an Anti-Fake News Act in the first place. So that's my stand.
In the context of an Anti-Fake News Act, there's actually 1.5 precedent. One is a Danish guy that at one point he said that the police came to the shooting of a Palestinian lecturer in Uganda. He pleaded guilty to the charges for a lower sentence. But in that case, the determinant of what is fake news essentially was the police and the Attorney General when they proceed to prosecute the guy. Because they themselves represent that this news is fake, so they're prosecuting him for it. Mahathir was the other one when he said that his claim is sabotage. But that one obviously proceed nowhere because it's Mahathir. I don't think they had the guts to actually investigate and take action against him. So there's that aspect of it. So the moment the police decide, oh, this is actually actionable, I should arrest the guy for investigation, which they should not in the first place, they're already determining and saying this is fake news. And it doesn't help in the context of Malaysia where media literacy and people's understanding of criminal justice is very low. When someone is arrested, they all presume, yeah, this guy must have done something. So at that point of time, I think in Malaysian mind, that already becomes fake news to some extent. And when the judge decides on it, that becomes really tricky. Because in the act itself, I think you don't really have a chance to defend yourself at the same time. Essentially, whoever that's bringing the case, be the prosecutor or even the public person, because we have provision for that in the law. The judge will just have to take it at prima facie at the face of it. This is what it is. It looks fake. Okay, I have to declare that it's fake news and then take action based on that. And so we don't hear a lot about the other side of it, but civil action based on the act has taken place. And some of the interesting example I've heard was that a guy that runs a business online, he sees a competition that's selling the same product and he doesn't like it. It's competition to him. So he go and file a case and say that product is, the seller is lying, he's producing fake news, and I want his page to be taken down. So they have filed that from what I understand. I won't say which social media, but the thing is, when it comes down to it, it is just a business competition. It's not generally any issue about someone's putting out false information. But the court is still obliged to put out an action and just say, okay, please take down the content. So I think it's very iffy because essentially they're putting it up to this set of presumption where no one can rebut.
So actually we have identified two issues here. First, the definition itself, what exactly is false, and second one, who determines what is false. So these are the two key issues. But maybe I ask you, fake news has been around from time immemorial. Rumors, disinformation, propaganda, it's been ever since, there's a joke that says that the first fake news was actually, the Bible, it was the serpent who told, who told Eve, you can eat the apple and then we be knowledgeable. So that's the first fake news. So why is it that society is so concerned about fake news now? Because it's been around for the longest time.
So yes, you're right. Fake news is not exactly a current creation. That's something that just created. This has been around, yes, I agree. It was recently popularized by US President Donald Trump. Yeah, but No, you shouldn't take the credit for creating that word. It has been around for some time. So the thing is, when you talk about fake news, why is it more how do I say it? Why is it a pervasive topic as of now? I would say because of the advent of technology, information technology, because of the fact that due to the prevailing use of social media, prevailing use of smartphones. Yeah, I mean I can see that how many of us here actually have known but are still not using smartphones. Probably none of us here. And for those very reasons, when you want to get certain information, you can just get that information like in a click of a button. It's less than a minute. So for that very reason, fake news is even more prevalent because one can create and spread that news in a matter of minutes. Yeah, and for that you see fake news even more a problem as compared to how it was, say, I don't know, 20, 50 years ago.
To me, I mean, it's always been there. It's always been a problem. I think the first person who ran the democratic election in this planet, I don't know where, maybe ancient Greece. I'm pretty sure he would have had this problem where his opponent is slandering him and doing all the kind of thing, and he's also doing the same with the other guy. So I think it's always been there. But what I think really sparked off a concern or sparked off this dangerous thought that okay, this might be affecting a society. Is we are becoming a very polarized society. Most of the time, the narrative you see is either you're with me or you're against me. There's no in between. There's no line where you can say, okay, I agree and to disagree with you because I think this is the best way forward, but I can see where you're coming from. We don't have the kind of middle ground anymore. And when we don't have this kind of middle ground, when the news comes out and say this other guy is lying, for ourselves, we tend to jump on it and say, yeah, the other guy must be lying. It validates ourselves. Then we got internet coming into the picture that I think just aggravates the problem because internet has a tendency to show you what you want to find or what you want to see. On one hand, you can say, they're trying to make it good business because if you see what you like, you'll consume more of it. But the flip side of it, I'm pretty sure if you Google to find, say for example, you want to Google Mr. DIY, you want it to show you the nearest one. You don't want it to show you a DIY that's located in Sabah or in middle of Kota Baru, somewhere far away. You want the convenience of it being able to tell what are you looking for and when do you want it. But for them to achieve that, it means that they have to show you what you like and what you want. So now if you have that system added on to the kind of polarization that we have, if someone Googles out the term, is vaccine actually causing Down syndrome? Depends on what you're searching for, odds are it's going to show you something that reflects what you want to see. And I think that becomes a very dangerous cycle when self-validation, they think, yeah, I'm right, the other guy must be wrong. And just keep on reinforcing to a point that it just gets so polarized that it's very difficult to sit someone down and talk to them one-to-one. And it also goes both ways because the person who's on the other side will also be looking at you funny purely because of one comment they made.
Yeah, you're absolutely right in saying that fake news has been around since time immemorial. It is something that has been there ever since human learned how to communicate. Fake news is not something new, it is effectively lying. And lying is simply human nature. It's, to quote Dr. House, everyone lies. And to criminalize something that is effectively human nature, lying can be many things. It can be a white lie, it can be a malicious lie, it can be a lie that envies somebody else. But the point is, there's nothing new about it. Fake news in its current form. And it's very interesting to see why suddenly there's this explosion of interest in fake news when many of its predecessors has been there. It's slander, it's defamation, it's propaganda. As long as you can trace back one form or another, fake news is there. So it's been popularized because somebody coined a different term as to what lying is. So we start to, I think at some point we have to take responsibility for not questioning ourselves more as to what fake news is, simply because it's been popularized by Trump over Twitter in the previous US general elections, suddenly everybody thinks, oh, it's a sudden phenomenon. No, it's not. It's part and parcel of society. And if you accept freedom of speech and expression, if you accept freedom of opinion, thought and belief, you have to accept that we are allowed to lie. We are allowed to share information which is false. Of course, there's a whole other problem of deciding whether something is true, something is false. That's another issue altogether. But any information which we believe we should share, we should be allowed to share. The only limitation is when it starts to harm someone else, then perhaps we should start thinking about reasonable restrictions in sharing such information, or misinformation, if you want to put it like that way.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we have discovered that the prevalence and the spread through the internet, the online, and has made society more polarized, and these are actually lies. But in your view, that these lies should be allowed because of freedom of expression, and only when there is a reasonable restriction, it is harm. But don't you think that because of this, the impact of this fake news, which spread so much, people, like we mentioned about media literacy, people don't know what exactly is propaganda slander, and they will spread it. And wouldn't this affect the process of democracy? I've been following this for the past 10 years, and I remember someone at a forum a couple of years ago said that, I don't know what's real now. When they go online, they get very confused. And doesn't this actually affect our democratic process? Because they don't know what to believe, they don't know who to choose, they don't know who is lying, who is not lying. So what do you think about this? Shouldn't there be some curbs, to help people to be able to, navigate this very new, confusing world out there? Yeah.
So I am going to answer that question in a couple of premise. So one is the fact that we are talking about democracy. How should we do this in a democracy? So one, when you talk about democracy, and what we want to move towards is a democracy that is vibrant, that is a democracy that is progressive, liberal and progressive. In this kind of democracy, freedom of expression should be allowed to thrive. So that's one. And then second, say Malaysia is a member of the international community, we have the international human rights treaties. And let's talk about ICCPR. So yes, we have freedom of expression that's guaranteed under Article 19 of the ICCPR. Yeah? But as was pointed out, I think in the debate, when we talk about freedom of expression, this is a right that comes with responsibilities. Yeah? And so there is no such thing as an absolute freedom of speech, an absolute freedom of expression. Yeah? And when you talk about limitation, yeah? say for example, an advocacy or an expression that advocates hate speech, that advocates discrimination, that advocates violence towards people of other race or people of other religion, that even the ICCPR recognizes should not be allowed. That in itself is a limitation that is recognized under international law. Yeah? So, one, recognizing that democracy has to allow freedom of expression to thrive, and second, recognizing that there is no such thing as an absolute freedom of expression. So, when we look at this as a whole, in a bigger picture, yeah, I don't believe, at the end of the day, I don't believe that there should be legal sanction. It should be, because to me, if you put a legal sanction on, this thing called fake news, it's an overkill. Because what it creates in this democracy that we want, instead of the democracy that we want, it creates a culture of fear. It creates a culture of repression, and that's not the democracy that we want. Yeah. But what I would rather, and taking on from the point that Rocky mentioned earlier about about media literacy, we go for media literacy. Because why? Because democracy thrives on having informed citizens to make decisions. And so you make sure that the informed citizens of their rights, make sure the informed citizens of rights and responsibilities, that comes with freedom of expression. That's my view.
This is a multi-layered issue, so I'll attempt to answer. Um, we have to accept that the sharing of any information, any form of speech, any form of expression, is part and parcel of democracy. So, if you look at it scientifically, if you're not able to decide or determine what is true and what is false, you are risking any information that is shared. And you're putting what lawyers like to call a chilling effect on the speech and expression. And that is detrimental to democracy. You might as well criminalize democracy without free speech and without expression. But I think we have to accept that at some level, lying, false information, fake news can harm people. But these restrictions must be very specific. It cannot be open-ended. Then again, it becomes a problem as to how if you can't have a definition to an offense, how then you're going to make it specific, or how then you're going to make it narrow? So that's the second problem. But how then do we deal with the harm that it causes? Tommy raised a good point that businesses, when they compete against each other, there could be some fake news involved. So the business has to suffer as a result of the competitor's actions. But that is a very limited example where you have a perpetrator and you have damage that is caused. So under the law, you could sue for defamation, which is another form of fake news. But when you take it to a higher level, let's take the US general election, for example. They said that, the Russian trolls are spreading false information that affected the democracy. But isn't that part and parcel of democracy where you have all this information out there, or misinformation out there, so that the people can decide? And the problem with that approach is that, again, it goes back to how then you know what is true, what is false. And this is not a problem. Like I said, it's not a problem that we are facing. We probably face this every generation. That you can't decide what is true, what is false, and you elect government based on a misinformed choice. The reason why it is so rampant today is because of technology. Technology made the spreading of information much faster. They make it much easier to share something. My view is that any solution that we have, it cannot be a solution based on legislation alone. I don't think the law would be terribly helpful in stopping harm caused by misinformation. The law, that's a problem with us as a society, and that's a problem with politicians. That every time there's a problem, we legislate. But some problems cannot be legislated. And if you legislate something that could not be legislated, no one is going to follow it. So this is a problem with education. This is a problem with getting the right information out there and educating people how to determine between what is true and what is false. So I'm sorry if I strayed away from the question, but it's intersectional. It's just so many issues, so many layers to this onion which we have to slowly peel. And every layer seems to make us cry even more.
Yeah, so for me, should we curb it? Yes, we should. But question is not should be, it's can we curb it? I think a little of what Simu said is essentially that if you try to legislate something that cannot be solved by legislation, you're only going to get deeper into the hole. And for me, it can't be solved because people always want to, well, politicians always like to lie. If they don't lie, they're not politicians. I know they're very bad ones. We've seen enough politicians that can't lie, and we see how well they do, right? But it's not just politicians lying in elections, but it's people sometimes just want to make a satire. Like, say for example, the onion news. It's satire, right? What do we want them to do? They want to put a big label that this is a joke, this is a gag website, please do not take this as news. Do we want to go to that kind of level? Then it will kind of lose meaning of its own. So I think trying to curb it in a sense, it's impossible. It's going to slip by one way or another. And if you keep trying to solve it by curbing it, we're only going to create more problems. Because at one point, people are going to say, this doesn't work. And what's going to happen to the system? People are going to be in shock and people are going to start rejecting the system and they're going to say, yeah, you have this legislation to curb fake news. I keep seeing things that I believe in getting blocked and the things I don't believe in keep getting passed. And they start doubting the system and you just get more polarized because you see there's a political motive behind it, there's an economic motive behind it, there's a motive behind it. So I think rather than just trying to see if we should or we can, maybe it's time to look at how do we mitigate it. And mitigated media literacy is obviously one, but also I think one of the questions we'll touch later on fact-checking system, right? So I think those are the things that we can look at.
Okay, so from what I hear from you, I would presume that your stand here is that the Anti-Fake News Act should be repealed because the Dewan Rakyat did want to repeal it, but the president senators have rejected it, thinking that it's still necessary because they feel that democracy is compromised because of all this disinformation. And in their opinion, it can be improved on instead of being repealed. What is your stand? From here, I think that your stand is to repeal it completely. I'll give it.
Okay, so remember last year where suddenly Lim Guan Eng and Mahathir announced that Malaysia is 1 trillion ringgit in debt? So, fun fact, a few months ago when one of the parliament committees they announced about the budget deficit, blah, 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 there was an interesting figure that used to say 1 trillion debt is not true. His name is Khairi Jamaluddin. And last I checked in the parliament press conference, he was standing next to Tok Pa, announcing that yes, all things considered, Malaysian debt is right now at 1 trillion ringgit. So if the Dewan Rakyat, the Senate people, think that it's necessary, I would advise them to please launch a fake news report against Khairi Jamaluddin. Because they clearly supported something that he knew was false. There was an intent behind it, the information was false, I think it needs enough criteria. If they genuinely think this is the way to solve the problem, please go. And to me, let's not kid ourselves. The Senate is a political tool. It's not an independent panel of individuals appointed because of their backgrounds, their technocrats, or their experts in subject areas. They are political appointees that serve a political interest. And they are going to vote based on that. And now if you look at the Senate representation, most of it are people, I think they have reached a majority appointed by Pakatan Harapan. I'm pretty sure any law they pass, even if it's bad law, it's still going to go through because of that. That's the sad reality of our system. It's not an elected Senate. So, do they have any good standing to say why they should keep the fake news? I don't think so. Did they even say through a public hearing? I mean, there's no tradition or practice of doing a public hearing. But have the Senate even tried to do a public hearing or analysis how effective has the law been? No. They essentially just say no because, they don't want it to pass.
So my position on Anti-Fake News Act is that it should be repealed in its entirety. We don't need amendment, we should just go away with it. Because I fail to see how the word fake news can be properly defined, that is one. And I fail to see how the act contain or how any additional amendments can be included to ensure that there are safeguards against abuses by, say, executive. I don't see how this can be incorporated to mitigate the risk of abuse, and for that very reason, I think the entire act should go.
Oh, the whole act was political. I mean, quite obviously you could see behind the context that even some of the wordings inside the act, that it was meant to stop information about 1MDB. So, they call it a rose by any other name would, smell as sweet. But I won't dismiss wholly what the Senate has to say, that there is a need to prevent certain information, certain which is wholly false from going out. But that obligation should not be something that is imposed on the citizens, on the common people. The duty or the obligation to tell the truth should be something that is observed by the government. So if any, the obligation or the offense of fake news, if I may, should be something that is imposed only on public officials, on government, that have a duty of candor, an obligation to tell the truth, to not mislead the public. And we have seen in the past, in many governments, not just Malaysia, that the government, time and time again, lie to the people. So why isn't an offense, why isn't a law to make it an offense for them to do so? So it's a question of relationship. You have at the top the government, you have at the bottom the people. But the offense is only towards the wider public. What is happening up there? Why aren't we doing something about what happens up there? So if we're going to amend, then yeah, I agree with Senate. Keep it only for the government, not for the people.
Can we propose to the ministers that? Okay, so I see your stand. You're against the anti-fake news act should be repealed, but you did mention, previously that there are harms that for example, in terms of hate speech, in terms of lies. So do you think that instead of having this anti-fake news act, there could be an act on hate speech, more like following what the UK has? Racial Relations Act, etc., or things like that, like lies, or how you like defamation is one of them. Do you think that we could have specific, what do you think of the specific things that we could introduce, to stop these harms rather than have an anti-fake news act?
So I think we can all agree that speech where it harms someone else should be restricted. And the international standard is quite clear, where a speech incites violence, incites hatred, incites discrimination, then it can be restricted. But the problem is in Malaysia, we don't have laws on hate speech, but we have laws that protects sensitivities. That again is a very ambiguous term. I don't know what it means. Sensitivities. We classify it, lawyers classify it as insult laws. If you're offended, then it's a criminal offense. So that is not laws against hate speech, something quite different actually. Laws on hate speech is not found in Malaysia. Zero. It's found in many different legislations, which you could say covers hate speech. You have the Sedition Act, you have 233, you have the Printing Presses and Publications Act, you can even find it under the Election Offences Act. So, but all these laws is much wider than just protecting hate speech. And it's wide to the extent where the state could abuse it. So, it's time for us to relook at all these laws, consolidate it, make it narrower, because we are seeing these laws being abused. Old government, new government, same thing. Yesterday, somebody was arrested for sedition. Yeah, we were there at the police station. And all because he tweeted something that others disagreed with. That's not hate speech. That's just somebody who is offended. So we have to, I think it's quite clear. I think this is something that the government knows. We know where we are heading. Problem is the willpower to do it. It's not there. We have heard from the manifesto that they're going to abolish the sedition and we're going to abolish 233. But it's still there. And and they said, oh, we're going to study it. Why is there to study? It's quite clear what we're going to do about it. We're going to abolish it. Then enact specific laws on hate speech that just deals with the incitement of violence, hatred, and discrimination. There you go, that's your answer. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to, come up with a legislation that deal with that.
Alright, so at the moment, we have in place Sedition Act, Printing, Press and Publications Act, Communications and Multimedia Act, defamation laws, in the penal code. So if you look at all these are laws that affect or that places restrictions on our freedom of expression. Yeah, so that's one. And second, these laws are not without problems, and at the moment, the problem with these laws is the application or enforcement. How do you enforce these laws? And at the same time ensuring that it is not being used by the government for their political interest rather than public interest. Yeah? So, which is why they have been undergoing talks, and this has been going on for a couple of years for the government to introduce national harmony laws. Yeah? And this has been going for a couple of years. Actually, I'm not quite sure whether it will actually see the light of day, but if it does, what I want to see in this national harmony bill the fact that laws that are designed to, you could say, in a way restrict our freedom of expression are restricted only in accordance with what the international standards say. Yeah, that is, yes, you have freedom of expression, the right to say what you want. Yeah, as long as it does not go beyond what is allowed under Article 1920 of the ICCPR, yeah, which is like what Steven said earlier, advocacy on hatred, advocacy bordering on creating discrimination, hostility, violence. That is what I want to see in this national harmony bill, which we don't know at the moment whether or not it will be introduced.
Ideally, I like the idea of a hate speech law, but practically, I find it reprehensible to some extent. And it's not because I think hate speech is fun. It is hilarious to read sometimes that people can think that way. But it's more of very pragmatic problems. If you look at Europe, some European countries have enacted hate speech laws, right? And this in Europe context is mostly targeting the Holocaust deniers, the white nationalists, neo-Nazis, and things like that. How effective has it been? The only thing it has done is they drove all these people who are now considered alt-right, right, underground. They disappear, you don't see them anymore, you think that it is solved, but actually it is festering them. Look at Christchurch. You have a guy that has been technically publicly sharing that he is going to shoot up Muslims. He is going to shoot up people who are not white in New Zealand. It's not like he's hidden away, it's just he's been going underground, leaving the mainstream media, leaving the mainstream social media because we have all kicked him out of it. He just goes underground, go into a channel where you and me would not go too frequent, but all the kind of neo-Nazis are hanging out around him. Essentially, his thing is announced. It was pre-planned. It was there the whole time. Did the hate speech law help? Not a single bit. And I think having a hate speech law right now is just, for me, it's like having a painkiller when you're in pain. You're not solving the root cause of it. You're not even addressing the root cause of it. And we're just kind of looking at it in a way that, oh, this is a problem. Let's try to placate it, put it here, and hopefully it will go away. It doesn't. So if someone tells me even in the military want to have a hate speech law, one thing is politically, does that mean UMNO and us have to get disbanded immediately? Or is all their leaders going to be prosecuted for hate speech? Because half the things they say are hate speech. What then? Does that mean we completely eliminate our political opposition then? And if we do say we implement a hate speech law, and it doesn't affect the political party, but people down the line, like this random guy off the street, that for some reason generally believes that, say, for example, the Chinese people are discriminating Malay people. He just will not be able to air it out publicly, and if he airs it out publicly, he gets arrested, and just going to continue to foment the whole idea that I'm right, I say something that people demand to hear, but I'm right. Would it really make him realize that this is bad? No. I think what really works is you have a general consciousness of people that will say that is reprehensible, that is not right, and condemn and criticize it. I'll give one example. Remember a while ago there was this guy that criticized the girl who was working as the sample food thing for House Club or something like that? Yeah. What stopped the guy wasn't the Sedition Act, wasn't the CMA, wasn't any law that we have. It was the fact that people publicly said that ain't right. We don't like that things being so fine, but that is not right to go harass someone for it. I think that's the thing that we need to have, the kind of consciousness. And having a law will not build that consciousness among people, among politicians. But forcing them to account and say, this is hate speech, we should not condone it, we condemn it. But right now, if you look at it also, when Bersatu says something that is not very nice, would PKR, DAP, Amanah say anything about it? No, they don't. They keep silent because it's politically expedient for them. So it's up to the people to condemn it right now, and we need to push that, make it a greater thing, make people understand that, we cannot just say, Allah, that one guy, never mind, Allah is a bit not right in the head. We need to point out that this is not right, it must stop. And this will be a collective voice from everyone. And I think Malaysia so far, it's not been amazing, but we have seen trackways and headways into that. Like for example, Merdeka, there was a guy that decided to wear the Malay thing here to just walk around in KL to show that, we are not all believing in this kind of rhetoric, that we are against this kind of rhetoric. I think things like that we need to push forward, and we don't need legislation for that. We just need policy and space for people like that to flourish.
I think it's interesting, also mentioned about this. What is NUCC, National Unity Consultative Council? Yeah, that is something I don't understand. I mean, you can't legislate racial harmony. It's not something that, again, you can solve by legislation. So, and for all that is said about racial harmony, it doesn't improve with the law. In fact, we see racial discrimination being entrenched in certain laws. But my point is that, having the NUCC, having hate speech, like Dobby, he made a good point that, it's not something you can solve using legislation. But that being said, it's a situation where if you don't have these laws, it's worse compared to when we have this law. So there's this book. It talks about human behavior. I think it's called the honest truth about dishonesty. So what the book says is that laws are there not to prevent those who want to steal from stealing. Laws are there to prevent honest people when presented with the opportunity to steal. So it's the same thing about having a law that is there. It's not terribly helpful like a law. A law I can break it, I can steal. And it's the same with the law. I have a law that's there that criminalizes hate speech. So, even when I'm in a situation where I want to say something that incites violence, I'll be prevented to do so. Compared to, free for all. I can say anything I want, even if it causes a riot outside. So it's that situation, isn't it?
Okay, thank you very much, all the panelists, and I would like to now open this up to the floor, right? Please use the mic. State your name. State your name and your question.
Okay, hi, my name is Carmen. Actually, I have two questions. One is a little bit philosophical in relation to your little book about the dishonest issue. Okay, but it sound like a dumb question, but when should we create laws? Since you all seem to be agreeing that certain things cannot be legislated, so when are laws necessary for what kinds of situations? Since it's very clear that many of the things that we are legislating is not necessary. So that's my first big question. My second one is more specific. What about things like deep fakes? As we know, it's coming to the fore, where people can actually use technology to manipulate videos to make you completely say something and you look like you're saying it, and people can completely believe it, whether it's like the sex videos or other kinds of videos. So the question is, in situations like that, where you're something very specific, you can actually use software to figure out whether it's fake or not, like completely fabricated, completely false, then do we have an obligation to have laws? And then do we need proof that it's really a fake or not? Because to me, that is evidence right? We're looking at actual evidence. Rumor to me, there's a difference between rumor and evidence. Rumor is some people say, and then you ask who gave the rumor, nobody knows. But with the video, you can trace it to when was it made, how was it made, you can actually detect that using technology. So in those situations, would it be prudent to have legislature? Because all around the world it's being discussed, but no country has done it yet. But it's there, the technology is there, it's already done, but in the commercial world. So going to political world, it will be only a matter of time. Thank you.
Well, it is a philosophical question, the first question. So bear with me. When do we legislate? I think it goes down to how do you view laws. There's two accounts of this. The first is that laws are meant to prescribe your behavior. So you cannot do anything other than what the law says you can do. The second is the law only prohibits certain conducts. So you can do anything you want except for what the law says you can't. Luckily for us, and in most countries, it's the second, mostly the second. There are certain situations where the first, you have laws that is, using the first account. And that's mainly for state. The state can only act in a certain manner. Anything else, you cannot do. Police powers, for example. So for me, the answer to when we need laws, it's again a multi-layered question, which has a multi-layered answer, where it really depends what you are legislating for. If you are legislating for the government, the state, then of course you need a law to regulate, because how else I would know you, the state, can do or cannot do. So you need laws for that. But if you are legislating for the behavior of citizens, then perhaps the second approach is a better approach. And I think I can't remember who said this, but a society which has less laws is a better society. Otherwise, we're not constantly being barraged by things that we should or should not do, So that's my answer, or not my answer, but the first question. And the second question on the fake, deep fake, I really don't think it's something that the law can solve. I mean, the law could generally prescribe that, if you come out with a deep fake, and that's really not much different from defamation, to be honest. And you have laws on defamation already. But again, law is always playing this catching up game. The technology is moving at such a speed where parliaments can't even comprehend. And you want them to legislate. That it's not a very elegant solution. It's not even a good solution. So it's not something that laws can solve. But the question was, we need to ask is, how do we get the right information out there at the same speed as the bad information or the non-information? Again, that's another catching up game, because you're always fighting fire. So maybe there's something, someone else can answer. I don't have the answer.
Alright, okay, so for clarity, I am taking a slightly different position than Simeon. So when he says, no regulation no regulation to hate speech and whatnot. To me, I want to say entitlements actually grow, but when it comes to the national harmony bill, my concession to that, I would say yes, if it is in recognition of the acknowledged implication that the international standards set. So that is my concession to the national harmony bill. So that's how my position differs slightly. Yeah. But at the same time, while I have a tough yes to this law being enacted, it cannot be the only solution. Yeah, we can't be a society. Where if something goes wrong, then there must be a law. Where if something goes wrong, okay, a law can fix this. We can't have that. Yeah, especially when it comes to issues such as this. My thinking is that when we talk about media literacy, what exactly is media literacy? So with the advent of IT, with the fact that now everybody uses smartphones, everybody is on social media, yeah, what we have become is a society where you wake up in the morning and then you just scroll your Twitter and then you see the headlines of the day and then you think you are already updated enough. Yeah? Where a society that is media literate would read the entire news. Would then, especially when the headlines are those that are very dramatic, headlines that are clickbait, yes, that are anger provoking, that rouse up that, oh, okay, I'm going to have a good day today because of these news, for example. You should be suspicious. You should be immediately skeptical of that news, check the source, and then you can even double cross-refer the images and see whether these are images from other sources that's not authentic, for example. These are the kind of media literacy education that we should be teaching our our citizens. We should be educating our citizens about, because the very fact that information is so accessible nowadays, yeah, people are saying now we are creating a generation of lazy readers, yeah, and that is what we should be changing, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. On the deepfake question, personally, if I'm a politician with a sex tape floating online, I really like deepfake. You know why? It gives me plausible deniability. And if I'm a celebrity, again, if my sex tape was linked to the internet, I would love deepfake because again, plausible deniability. And if there's 100 deepfakes of me doing something online, and one of my actual one goes down, it's hidden. Should we need to legislate around that? I don't think so. But I think what we need is a lot of education going on at our younger generation in school and university now. When I say education, I don't mean education that how to spot the deepfake. Because essentially right now people are training computers to create deepfake and training a computer to detect a computer. So that's a bit hilarious to me. But training in a sense that from now on, government or organization like Swaram, Swakam, or whichever organization, we need to start installing mechanism where our news can be verified. Like say if I put out a press statement, there needs to be a way that you can cross-verify to make sure, okay, this is a statement issued by the government, or this is a statement issued by web. There are technological ways to do it and automate it, but the thing is, it is something that we need to start thinking about and start developing, and people need to be educated how this works. If you want an example, like for example, if you download software, usually security software nowadays, right, they'll have a signature code. And essentially, you can't fake the signature code. So if you download the file, the signature code checks out, you know this file has not been tampered before. So things like that could help us ensure that people know which is real, which is false. And the deepfakes want to go around the world, go ahead, because now you know where to find your actual source of information. But then how do you interact with information is up to you later. On the more philosophical question, when do we legislate? I'm a bit of an anarchist at heart, so I don't really like legislation unless we really need it. But one thing I learned from jurisprudence is the benefit of legislating, you're always coming one step behind the actual incident. And usually the one step behind is like 6-7 years behind. Like our hate speech issue in Malaysia, it's not new. It's been there for 30-40 years at least. We are looking at the after effect and we can kind of look at the impact itself and what we need to curb. But the thing is, can we actually study and see where are the fault lines? Like you say hate speech, for example, most of it is driven by politics. Do we legislate to criminalize hate speech, or do we legislate or find ways to dissuade political parties from using race and religion as the main tool of advocacy for themselves? So if I were to think like very practically, at which point we legislate when it does harm to people? And when I say harm, not just a very imaginative, oh, I might get hurt, my feeling might get hurt, but someone that's actually provoking a direct physical immediate action against a person, like genocide, for example. There are very clear indicators. At one point, you cross a certain line, you cannot even tolerate it anymore. It must be prevented before something nastier happens. Or like, for example, security offenses. Government like to say, or police like to say, be media laws and things like that. Sure, they do. But to me, what they need is a way to prevent without being excessive about it. So at that point of time, they say, for example, they found the current legislation really does not allow them to operate, to even curb a small bomb, for example. For example, say, for example, like the Boston bombing a while ago. They say they need to have access to all the telephone within an area to determine what triggered the bomb. and we don't have legislation that enables that, then yes, we might need to consider that because that's actually a practical problem that we have seen due to incidences that need to legislate around. But if someone suddenly forward thinking, like say the prison program in the US, right? Before anything even practically happens, some genius decided we need to check all the emails, all the WhatsApp, all the messages, all the phone in the country, all 300 million of them. They legislated, created a framework for that, and see how well it worked. All the bombings that happened in the US, all the shooting that happened in the US, all of those information of those people have been on the network for the longest time. But nothing gets picked up because you're spying on everyone. So we need to be very conscious of that. Legislating to things that have happened, unfortunate things have happened, but those to me can be reasoned, can be discussed, can be studied. But if someone tries to be a genius and legislate forward, it's either they have the greatest foresight, or they are a prophet, or they plan something to happen, and that's why they know what's going to happen, that's why they can make a law around it.
Thank you very much. So I hear that the harm here would be more things like with violence and with hate speech, rather than offensive speech, right? So in other words, you believe in the right to offend, because we debate about it, but when it comes to physical harm, that's where you draw the line. Yeah, okay, thank you. Anyone else would have questions? Yes, sir?
I'm David. Now, one of your panelists said that fake news is as old as mankind. I agree with you. But we have known it as gossips and rumors. And I've always found that as I grew up in my compound, the grocer will come to your area. I'm not accusing the initiator. All the housewives will get together and they are supposed to be buying grocery. And then one will start, here, did you hear what happened there in their house? And it goes around. By evening, it will spread like a wildfire. That is compound dynamics of gossip and rumor. And it is evolved today. It has got a veneer of sterilization, so to speak. And it takes various forms, blogs, and other editions in social media vehicles. Now, I ask myself, what is the motive? Motive is very important. Why are people indulging in fake news? Is it to personally slander somebody, smear somebody, or injure somebody's reputation? Right? It reveals the dark side of their nature. Right? And then, what are the other causes, that triggers fake news? Is it social inequality, or the social ills, or racial equality, or economic, inequality? One has got to address these causes first and eliminate these causes. And then one of your panelists spoke about hate speech. Now the problem is fake news and hate speech. Okay? And it takes two to tango. Hate speech is usually a response to a provocation. What hate speech does not spring by itself. You say something to me, I feel offended, I give you a double dose. That's how it goes. Right? And then, honestly, do we think you can legislate it? as at the present level? Probably you can, but it has got to start with education at a younger level. What are we teaching about palm oil to students when we should be talking about, freedom of expression, the ills, the rights and wrongs of social media, and prepare a new generation to face the future? Not encouraging palm oil education. My God, when I read about it, my whole system was laughing.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any other questions?
No.
This will be the last round before we can. Yeah.
Hi. Okay. Let's go to the lowest common denominator here. It's about how people consume news. So let's be honest. Our society is a very performance one. So if let's say a guy with a very big political opinion or somehow he's a public figure say something, most people will agree to it. So how would you measure how far news or something which is shared by these people can be considered fake or legitimate? That's number one. And number two, it also goes well with what I'm saying earlier, is that journalism, how would you legislate journalism, even if that it can be considered clickbaity or maybe the whole article can be written in a caps lock manner just to say that you're angry with something? Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, my name is Amelia. My question is pertaining to like a comparison to laws on cheating. Because to a large extent, the principle of laws on cheating pertains to the idea of dishonesty, deceiving another person, or inducing to deceive another person. So when you look at the principle of the laws of cheating, it requires a determination of the truth and deviances from the truth. And the laws on cheating tells us that it is possible for us to set standards and measures to determine truth, and the extent in which the judiciary applies and sort of tests in determining what is the truth. I'm curious to know if the same standards can be applicable to laws on fake news, because principally it would still require some sense of determination of the truth, inducing to deceive someone. So I'm curious to know if we have laws on cheating, which requires the court to determine an idea of the truth or dishonesty, why can't the same laws or the same standards be applicable to laws on fake news?
Thank you. And the last question.
Good afternoon. My name is Sherilyn, and I would like to ask that since the definition of fake news is very subjective and it's very hard to regulate, because when there is a law to prevent people from airing news, there's also a similar concern where the government abuse the power, and so that if we were to have another hate speech regulation, a kind of law that regulates hate speech, the same controversy, I believe, is going to circulate again. So, is there a more effective way to actually compile all of the subjects pertaining to speeches and also the freedom to speak and also sanction it under a particular act? Yeah, that's my question. Thank you.
I'll take the question in reverse, answer the question in reverse. So your question is whether we can consolidate everything. And there's concern that government might abuse. Okay, as a general rule, we should be slow in trusting the government. Not any particular government, but all government. Because the irony is that the government, and I'm not just talking in the local context, I'm just talking generally over the world. The irony of the paradox of human rights is that the government are or should be an entity that protects human rights, but yet at the same time they are its oppressors, its abusers. So there is definitely a need to consolidate laws and make it simpler. And I think that's a problem across the board, that you have laws, each churning out at such speed and such an amount. Now we are at what, Act 700 something, probably close to 800. And we don't know what the law says. So it sort of defeats the purpose when the common folks, not lawyers, don't know what the law says. That means, the law in its very simplest form to inform people what they can or cannot do, they have failed in that. So definitely I agree with you, there's a need to consolidate all laws on speeches and make it accessible, make it simpler for people to understand. And then your question is on cheating. Yeah, what is it? Well, put it this way, there is two different situations. On one hand, you have a situation where, I'm under duty, or I so owe some form of duty or responsibility towards you to tell you of the truth. And if I fail in that duty by lying to you, and you suffered loss as a consequence of that, then yes, the court can decide and punish you or make an order accordingly. But that duty, if you take it and you apply it generally to everybody, regardless of situation, which is what the Anti-Fake News Act is doing, then you have a problem. Because if I tell you a lie right now, or any of you a lie right now, I'm in trouble, even though I don't owe you any duty. Why can't I tell a lie? And the best example of this is comedies, parodies. You have those parodies websites, what? Ape Times, Onion News. If you follow the definition, it's all fake. Nothing is real. The movies, The Matrix, everything is a lie. It's not real, isn't it? So you have a problem if you apply the same standard, so you can't. But if we have a special relationship, then, yeah, definitely, I should be responsible. I should be punished. And the last question is on legislating journalism, right? Did I get it right? Yeah. I believe that journalism should be, you should let them govern themselves. You need a media council for that. So they should set standards on what is acceptable conduct. What should the code of ethics be? Because at the end of the day, it's a business transaction. The journalists or news outlets, they need the public to believe them. Otherwise, they lose their value. They can't compete. They have no brand value. So if you decide to embark on a quest of mistruth as a news outlet, then you're going to suffer. But if the public believe you to be credible, the public believe that, okay, I can trust this news outlet, then you will thrive. That is not something the law can help. The law can say, yeah, definitely the law can say that all journalists should act truthfully at all times. But again, is this a solution for the law? I don't think so. So I think journalists should be left at their own devices, self-regulated.
Yes. I'll do the reverse of what he did. I'll go from top down. I think, why do people make fake news? That's a good question. I think most of it in the political context, well, let's go on political context. Most of it is just mischievous. I think the US election, people talk about a lot of Russian interference. They didn't talk about some of the pranks that people pulled. So essentially at one point there was this small documentary about kids in Eastern Europe. Essentially what they do is they create fake news website, not for profit, not to support any political party, but because they found it hilarious and fun, that they can literally string along millions of views or hundreds of thousands of views per day by putting fake news about the US election. and people took it hook, line, and sinker. And as a 13 years old, if I do a website like that and I see the whole world of adults to me believing something absolutely ridiculous and stupid, I would be very amused and I'll continue doing it for the sake of amusement. I think those are also, in a sense, the role of satire, audio critics through satire and things like that. You can't really stop them, and I don't think it's necessarily malicious. But if it comes to political, why do they use fake news? Slander, like you said, slandering opponents is what they do it for most of the time. And I think it's just because it's an easy game. Like, I think debaters will know it very well. It's always easier to just discredit your opponent in one way or another, or make him look like an absolute idiot, than to prove that your point is better or more robust. And it's the same for politics. It's easier to tell people that, this guy is an idiot because this, as opposed to say, you know what, I got this plan, I've seen what he's done, I think this is going to look better. I think Norway did something very interesting recently where they had their presidential candidate debate, but rather than screaming down the opponent like what the US presidential debate do, what they want is say something positive about what your opponent say, and then say what you can do better than them. So it's a more positive vibe. And I think it's just whether we want to actually implement such a system and have an iron-fisted moderator, there's no democracy there, and make sure people comply with that. I think once people are more normalized to the idea that rather than selling how bad you are, or how good things can be, or how my idea is better, I think things would improve a little. There will be less motivation to slander someone. Someone is going to take the easy path, but then if there's only one politician out of 300 that do slander, and the rest of them are trying to pitch a good idea, I think people gravitate towards a good idea. And I think we've seen this work in a lot of countries, not just Malaysia, Norway, but in Serbia when they were protesting against the dictatorship there. It was also using positive messaging and not negative messaging. They don't have to slander the guy, they just have to make him look, democracy can work. And he'll look bad by default. And next question was social economic status. I don't think social economic status will spread fake news, but it will make people believe fake news. For example, NUP, always controversial. And if you go to the Chinese community, they always say, Chinese people are discriminated. But if you go to the federal court, for example, is there really discrimination then? It's a stupid system, don't get me wrong, because it's not merit-based, it's based on ethnicity. But is it really discriminatory when you have literally the proportions 6:3:2:1 kind of proportion there in the panel in federal court and things like that? So I think but then the thing is, people have this sentiment that they're being discriminated against. So when someone spread the news that, the Malay people are trying to kick Chinese people out of government politics, people believe it because they already have the presumption that it is fake news, or it is something that they've been suffering the whole time. And same thing as Malay community, for example, right? A lot of them has been fed this news that, Malay people are economically less well off, blah, 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 the whole kind of news. And then suddenly someone spread the news that, this Chinese Tauke is, abusing Malay workers, blah, 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 making a really profit of it. Some people who find themselves in an economic pinch, I find it more credible, confirm you do this, that's why I'm poor. So it's very easy to sell that kind of ideas. So I think that's that aspect that really needs to be studied, like what kind of fake information is actually traversing through the internet or among communities and people believe them, and why do they believe them. I think that would help a little, and then going to the next question, David, I just did here. First reflective question for everyone. When you last saw a very clickbaity title of a news article, did you believe them? If you tell me yes, then yes, you have a problem. But if you tell me no, it's too clickbaity, I know something was wrong right off the get-go, then good, because that will mean we don't really need a solution, because we can already discern it, we are already used to it, we understand it, and we know how to scrutinize it. But I think maybe the problem is right now is you have age gap in that sense. People who grew up with the internet, and they could be 50, 60 years old because it's that generation that actually created the internet, not our young punk-ass generation. But the younger people and people who are familiar with the internet is very familiar with how these things work. They're very skeptical about it, they don't fall for it. The question is, we have a big chunk of population which did not grow up with the internet, did not really understand how the internet proliferates, and might find these things very compelling. So the thing is how to reach out to those community and try to make sure that they are not influenced so easily of education program for them. Like an example, I have an uncle, very well educated, works in the telco in Singapore, and he will forward all the fake news in the world, and when you tell him, hey uncle, stop lah, this is fake news lah. You know what he say? Doesn't matter lah, it's just a message lah. How do you break those kind of cycles? I can't imagine someone who's 19 years old, grew up with the internet, would say something like that, but someone for his generation would think this is just a message, it doesn't cause any harm. So how do we deconstruct that and get rid of that? Now, cheating mechanism, that's fun, but I can imagine people nowadays will really gear towards, oh, we can use AI to determine objectively and fairly. My first cautionary tale. At one point, someone was doing a study of image recognition, and essentially the project was see building an AI to detect differences between a dog and a wolf. I'm not telling the whole story, but paraphrasing it, essentially, you know what's the difference for the AI to find out what's a dog and what's a wolf? Do you think it's their snout, their ears, whether there's a tag around them, whether it's fur color? No. Whether there's snow in the background. Because AI is stupid that way. They can learn, they'll learn the easiest way and cheat their way out. They will not find out the real way that humans interact. So can we have a cheating system in that sense of parallel? Maybe, because I know there's NGOs in Taiwan, what they do is they would literally profile every politician that has ever joined a party, has ever spoken up. So if it's, I say for example, if we take Mahathir, they'll take everything he said from the day he joined politics until the day he started lying, put it on the website, you be the judge yourself. Can you trust this guy as a politician? So things like that could work, but again, it's a culture where people are ready to go find out more. They are not happy with just, oh, they say this, okay, no? So that's a cultural shift that we need to think about. And the last one, I think, CB actually covered my views exactly the same. That you should not trust the government is bad. Anarchies.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to summarize my answers. Some have already been covered by the two speakers earlier. Now, the term fake news has already been defined. I'm not sure if some of you may know this. Has already been defined in the Cambridge English Dictionary, and it is defined as false story, usually for the purpose of influencing political views. So, some people may think it's for a whole host of other reasons, but mainly it's being used to influence political views. So there was earlier questions about the fact that whether people subscribe to fake news because of the socio-economic inequality. To me, I think the use of fake news was by using or manipulating the current sentiment on social and economic inequality. By using that, reflecting, curating news in a certain way that it rounds up and create a certain reaction. Yeah. So that's one. And then second, there was also a news coverage on fake news by a media outlet where I think an interview was done with a professor that looked into behavioral analysis when it comes to fake news. Yeah. And so the question that was posed is that why do people create and share fake news? There were three answers. One is because the fake news share or relate to what they already agree with. So that's one. And then second, they generally don't know that it's false. They think, they just didn't bother to check, and they just say, oh, okay, I'll just check. They didn't know that it was none of the information that's in there false. And thirdly is they just didn't really want to create trouble. So when we talk about fake news, the sharing and creation of it, which of the three are the reason, we don't know. It could be any of the three. So I think that makes it even more not feasible to have it legislated into law. That's my view. And then second, there was also questions on how when it comes to say public figure, how do you know how much false is false, and then to be trust the government. I take a similar position that I would be very skeptical to have the government be the truth police. Yeah, and if you look in the ICCPR in the international law, it sets up restrictions when it comes to freedom of expression. And first it says that it has to be provided by law. It has to be necessary, for example, for the protection of reputation, for the protection of the rights of others. Let's look at the rationale. Why are they recognized restrictions under the law? It's because, it's because there is this tendency of governments around the world to restrict expression for the purpose of political gain. You look what happened with the information blackout in Kashmir, for example. That's one. You look at what's happening with the fact that there's no news coming out from North Korea as to what's happening with China, with the Xinjiang community movement in Xinjiang. These are all real examples of how expression is restricted, expression is controlled and manipulated by the government of the day. Proving to us, proving to the world that you can't place your whole trust on the government to decide what information you can and cannot access. Yeah. So that's one. There was also questions on media. Yeah. There is already in talks for a media council to be established. Yeah. And that why was there talks in media council? Why are we moving towards that? It's because of the fact that there should be less interference by the government. Yeah. In ensuring press freedom. There is what we call a journalist code of ethics. Yeah. For example, this code of ethics will include things like before they publish the news, they have to verify the sources. Yeah. And there's a whole host of other codes that journalists have to follow. And these are all a matter of self-regulation. And so, yes, if our journalists are encouraged, and if there is this media council takes form, I believe this is one step towards having a responsible journalism. Yeah. And another question also, I think, what we should consider, and this has already been in practice in a couple of other countries, is fact checker. Yeah, and this is essentially a group of an independent, a body of independent individuals who does fact checking. So, for example, if you say this particular news has 80% fake news, yeah, and social media providers or social media companies like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram have recognized that they too have responsibilities, and they have actually collaborated with a couple of fact-checking organizations in which, when you look at their, for example, Facebook feed, it will flag news which are considered, for example, 90% false. Yeah? So this is one of the ways that you could look at rather than going to legislation. Thank you.
With that, let's give a round of applause to the panelists for the insight into this issue. I'll hand it back to James.
Thank you very much to the panelists and the moderator. Please give them another round of applause. It was a very insightful discussion. Right, so before we present the token of appreciation, I'd like to invite all the panelists and the moderator to please take their seats in the floor.